Hey everybody, I'm Tammy Kiekefer. I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
And I'm Desiree Grimaldi. Welcome to Unguarded Minds podcast, where we talk about all the drama, trauma, and gritty things that life throws at you. We have a special guest today, Chris Eder. He is he was in the United States Air Force for just shy of 24 years. The majority of those years he served as a combat correspondent. He did 2 tours in Iraq, and he is an award-winning radio and television journalist and radio host. So first, thank you for your service. And
Thanks.
second,
Yes.
welcome. We are so happy to have you. Today
Virtually,
we were
of course. The budget did not approve me to be there in person, but that's okay.
So today we're going to kind of dive into some childhood trauma and deployments and PTSD and just a lot of things people avoid talking about or are nervous to talk about. We just like to go right off the cuff and dive in. So if you want to kind of give us a lay of the land of your journey so far.
Oh, well, that is a completely loaded question. Like, I could talk forever. I didn't know we were bringing in childhood trauma, which I understand is almost always, Tammy, you can correct me, a precursor to adult trauma. So obviously, yes. I mean, there was childhood trauma. Not to get into any, unless we get there, but like clearly there were issues evolved in my childhood. Lots of abandonment issues, being left with strange people, illicit drugs, and things of that nature.
Colorful.
Yeah, colorful is a really good way to say it, Tammy. Interesting. And what's interesting to me is, like, as when you're a kid, you don't really know any better. And like, I don't recall when I was younger ever feeling like this was wrong or this was different. It was just, this is just the way I lived. And then obviously as I became an adult and had, once my prefrontal cortex fully developed, possibly it didn't fully develop, but you know what I'm saying? You start recognizing these things, like, especially when I became a father, I'm like, wait a second, like, my wife is a saint and probably, if not the greatest mom, definitely on that top 10 list of greatest moms of all time. Like, she wants to be a mom. Her priorities are everyone but her first. And it was shocking. Like, why would you do that? Like, I don't have that point of reference,
Wow.
and nor did I have a point of reference of how to be a father, just so you know.
Yeah, I think you're so right. We talk about that too. When you're growing up, this is what you've got: one mom, you've got one dad, and then you've got the extras who come in and out of your life. I mean, you don't know the difference. You don't know what's right or wrong. You don't know what's normal, what's not normal or healthy. It just is what it is. And I think as you get older and you get outside of your home, whether it's going over to a friend's house or whether it's, that's when you have these realizations of like, wait a second, you do it like that over at your house? You mean your mom's
Right.
always there, your dad's kind, or you're like, I don't understand this. What's happening?
I wouldn't give my life up for anything, but I will tell you that I'm slightly envious of, I have a handful of friends who were born and raised in Simi Valley, California, and their parents have been married for 50, 60 years. They've been married for 20, 30 years. They have the same friends they've had since elementary school, and all these different things. And it's like, wow, that's so crazy. My one friend has slept in 3 different rooms her entire life.
Wow.
Like, that's 1 year in the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so shocking.
And
It hits really hard when you become a parent. So, we've talked about, like, I grew up, nobody ever committed enough for marriage, but there was multiple partners in it. But when you have children, like, because you're like, whatever, it is what it is. People have it worse. I can't complain. It may not have been normal, but it was my normal. And then you have children, and it feels like somebody has just released that load of bricks that you've been like dragging along right on top of you. And you're like, how could I ever do that to my kids? How can I ever not put them first? And it's such a learning curve of one, not having the knowledge of what the other side of that looks like, but then also unbreaking those learned behaviors that you witnessed growing up. And it sucks that it takes so long for it to really hit us that we weren't the problem. It wasn't normal. Like, these are different things, and it all hit. Especially, I know it's a little different for women just because we're already going through that hormonal process, and then to have that load of bricks dumped on you. But I mean, men go through the same emotional ups and downs, I think, and it's just a lot becoming a new parent on top of that all being thrown in your face as like, oh shit, that shouldn't have been that way.
Do you think it's a generational thing too? And what I mean by that is, my aunts and uncles don't talk about the past. And I feel like my generation, so we're talking the Gen X folks, so kids born in the 70s, we tend to talk a little bit more about it. And now I feel like every generation younger than me is talking more and more about these things, so that it's a common thing. Like, I'm readily open to my kids and let them know that, hey, I am struggling this week or whatever it is. And like, I talk to them about that, whereas, I asked my dad a question before he passed, and I go, that was so long ago, I don't remember.
Yeah.
That's the conversation. Or when you ask my mom things, she's like, I did the best I could. That wasn't the question I asked. But
Yeah.
thank you for your response.
But I think as the so me and Tammy talk a lot about generational trauma and stuff like that, or generational curses. And I think that every generation changes, but like, you think when our parents, so, 70s babies, I was 80s. I get the same response from my parents when I used to talk to them, but it was always even politics. And sometimes I tell my husband, I go, I wish we would just go back to when we were growing up, when everybody kept everything in their house and they weren't posting it everywhere and sharing their political opinions or their finances, or, but it was such, when we were being raised, it was such this stays home. This is not for you to go tell your friends. But then the schools now are like, tell somebody, tell somebody, tell somebody. And so they're pulling, I think it's been a little bit exaggerated, but I think just the whole shift in mental health, and then like, these things are not okay at home, and, has pulled a lot of that out.
I think it's, we have a guest over here.
Yeah.
I know. Hello, welcome to our podcast.
I'm assuming just looking at the window, someone opened their garage door without asking.
Something happened, and high alert time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, my dad, I remember my dad hearing stories about it, that he came back from Vietnam and went into the bathroom stall at the airport, took all his fatigues off, left everything in the airport, and that was it. Like, I don't hear anything about his stories, and I hear the funny stuff that happened in his job, but until he gets around another war veteran, I hear bits and pieces. But I've asked so many times, and it's just like, oh, it was crazy, and it was a long time ago.
Vietnam vets don't talk.
No. And so
they've been carrying that shit for 40, 50 years. They don't talk.
Yeah. And some of them can do it, and some of them just cannot do it. And I don't know, can do it, whatever that looks like. But I think that it's, I'm on the side where I'm like, good. It's these generations coming up are, I think you got to talk about this stuff. And I think that it's probably helped. It's saved lives. It's, normalizing emotions and being able to identify emotions and behavior and understanding the connection. So yeah, I think it's becoming a little more normalized.
You realize a lot of people have a lot of feelings.
Right.
We're not robots. So yes, on the one hand, I think you've got the person who's airing all of their dirty laundry, and then you've got the person who's just locked down, not sharing anything. So
yeah, maybe it's just the language you use, because there's a difference to me between airing out my dirty laundry, which to me is more gossip. Like, let me tell you about my wife, fill in the blank. Let me tell you about my partner. Let me tell you about my whatever. But that to me is more gossipy. But for your dad to be able to say, look, I saw some shit that it's hard to even comprehend, let alone tell you about. That would be enough, or at least for us to understand,
Yeah.
And, when I try not to pile, and I'm like, oh my God, my life, it's simple. Like, my kids aren't dumb. They know what's going on with me. So they're all adults. But, just being able to, even with my wife, I struggle more with my wife, being able to tell my wife, hey, I'm struggling today. And I know that if I tell her first, it's better, because if she asks me, hey, you don't seem right today, that's a trigger to me. Like, she's spot on, but I feel bad because I didn't say it first. And then that will throw me in a little downward spiral.
And so does it, like when you say that it makes you feel bad, do you feel guilty, or you feel like, oh, I wasn't holding it together and she saw it first, or what do you mean?
I feel guilty. It's more of a guilt. It's more of me not being able to communicate effectively to express what I need today. I feel, maybe a little miniature portion of your dad's like, if I just lock this shit down and put a smile on my face, tell a couple jokes, we're into lunch. And then after lunch, I feel like I have these little things. Like, if I can just get to here, just get to there, we're good. Just need to go back to sleep, and then I'll be fine. So yeah, it's definitely more of a guilt. I wouldn't say shame, just more of a guilt because of me knowing that if I would just say, hey, I'm having a bad day today, then everything would be fine. But of course, you don't want to say I'm having a bad day every day.
And then sometimes you are. Yeah.
Indeed.
So
we tell our kids a lot, like seasons, like it's a rough season. It's a rough, break life into seasons and stop looking at it as like, this year sucks. No, this season, it might be tougher than normal, or we may be focused on business more, or your school stuff's a priority, or, so we try and break it up into a whole bite-sized piece.
Perfect.
Manageable. Right.
Yeah.
So you do a lot with vets, Chris, right?
I could do more, but yes.
Yeah. What kind of work do you do? I know.
So I used to be a raging extrovert, and life was so much easier then. I have found that since vacationing in Baghdad, I'm more of an introvert who people still think is an extrovert. So I go out and do extrovert things, and then have to come back home and recharge. Also, if I don't go out and do things, then I get depressed. So it's like this double-edged sword. But I advocate for several different nonprofits that are bringing the healing arts to our warriors. And that can be in a couple different ways. Obviously, as a yogi who's been practicing since 1999, teaching since 2006, yoga is a very big focus of mine. So I was with an organization called Mindful Yoga Therapy for about 12 years. I support connected warriors, warriors at ease. Oh my gosh, it's happening. It's happening. Vetoga, my good friend Justin and Vetoga. Those are the primary, and Veterans Yoga Project. Those are the primary yoga organizations. And then there's several organizations that are doing more hands-on in on-campus type work. Save a Warrior, Boulder Crest, Mission 22, which doesn't have a particular program, but just has invested lots of times and resources to veterans. So that's kind of my jam, and the way I do that is by making here it is, mala beads.
Nice.
You're looking, just wearing one.
Love it.
I have several different malas that are called seva malas, and that's kind of like a giving back. Seva is basically saying giving back, some type of give back program. And so I have several malas that I have made on Mala for Vets that directly support these organizations, and a couple ones that you get to choose which organization. And then I'm always donating time and product to anybody who's raising money for these type of programs.
Oh, so you're doing a lot.
I mean, I do it from here.
Yeah.
I would want to get out more. I would be more active, but another part of my life is right above me. I have a special needs adult son who has debilitating OCD, PTSD, and autism. And so his sleep schedule is counter all of ours.
Oh.
So he's asleep now while we're awake, which means we have to be quiet. And then, so all that good stuff. So it's difficult for me to get out of the house for any length of time, because while my wife is able to take care of my son by herself, it's a lot to ask someone to manage a household and another human while I'm out and about. So that's has reduced my impact in that way. So I try to find as many different ways that I can make as big as impact as possible from my office. I'll do free, I'm also a graphic designer, so I'll do pro bono work once a quarter. If you're a nonprofit supporting veteran programs, I will design a logo for you. I'll do a website for you, whatever it is. I'm constantly selling my services at a cut rate price to help people so they can amplify their voices for the work that they do. So I guess it is kind of a lot, but I know I could do more.
Yeah, I suppose we could always say we can do more, and then just, it's cool when you're talking about all these different programs, how many programs are out there to choose from, that you don't have to go and be on site for a lot of them. You can give any way that you can, whatever works for your schedule and your time and your budget. So what, I think, because we were trying to figure out where we met, and it was the Veterans Yoga Project.
Correct.
But it was such a roundabout way because we weren't in the same training class at the same time. We had a connection and knew someone who knew someone, and that's how, we started talking years ago.
I've actually, during the pandemic, when we all had plenty of time, I started going through all my friends list, because I had like thousands and thousands of friends on Facebook, and I'm like, I never met you. I never met that. I'm like, I don't even remember who are you next? I cleaned out a lot of people because I'm like, this is just too complicated for me, because, I have these people. I think part of the traumatic brain injury is like, if I don't recognize you, I don't recognize you. So when we started talking about this last month, I'm like, wait a second, I don't think I've met Tammy before.
Nope, this is the first time that we've actually met.
Same with you, Desiree.
No, so I want to dive in. So you did 2 tours, and I just caught that little sneak in that you did of the traumatic brain injury. Can we talk a little bit about your tours?
It turns out your brain does not like to have rockets going off next to it.
I would imagine that
it's shocking, I'm
fun.
sure. Yeah. So what part do you want to know?
One, coming from, so were you in the Air Force? Did you have children while you were active?
Yes.
So you had this realization of crap from growing up, and now you're in the Air Force. I'm just curious, what was it like? Because you had mentioned, you didn't really have guidance on how to be a father that maybe you wanted to be. And now you're a father overseas, away from your kids. What kind of impact did that have on you?
Yeah, so I have a really good talking point for that. But I will tell you that, void of not having a role model, if you will, I've always been a very vivacious, bubbly, loving kind of person, right? And I think it's probably because of the ADHD that you unknowingly make these changes in your life, or the way you present yourself, in order to disguise what's really going on in the background, right? So because of that, I'm skilled, probably black belt skill level, of being able to put forward the best possible version of me no matter what. So I've always been loving. So that was easy. Being loving is easy, but knowing what to do is difficult. not being there when all three of your kids learned how to ride a bike. Shelly did that, not me. Not being there for so many birthdays. That's Shelly. Not being there for, milestones and this, that, and the next. I think we did the math, and I think I was gone like 30% of their lives. That's massive. And it seemed like it was always on my wife's birthday and our anniversary. I was gone.
And these are because of your deployments, or
deployments or just assignments? Because as a journalist in Europe, there was a period of time there towards the end where I was spending about 2 weeks a month in Africa. Also, I probably did during my tour in Italy. I think I made like 12 trips to Croatia. So difficult. Although there was one place I went to mostly, which was in the center of Croatia, and even in the summer, it was just so damn cold. Like, it was the worst place in the world, but we went there so many times. So yeah, just those type of things, and training and deployments. And deployment was only 2 count, but as a journalist, I was gone at least 1 to 2 weeks a month.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now, the thing about, before we go on, how did that handle when I was overseas? Well, during my first deployment to Iraq, where I was part of a team that set up the American Forces radio station in Iraq, stationed in Baghdad, it was just a really, we could have a whole new podcast just on that. But suffice to say that in 2003 is when things really started, everyone left, all the bad guys, insurgents left. And in 2003, during Ramadan, they came back. And it started with the rocketing of my hotel room, the Al Rashid, in October. And after that, it just got worse and worse. And so one night, GTE was contracted for the telephone services in Iraq. And thousands of phones had direct dial. So, everyone was calling home, wherever home was. I was calling Germany. And one night I was on the phone with my daughter. She must have been 5, 6 tops at the time. And as I'm talking to her, a car bomb goes off, right outside. I was in the convention center, so just nothing but windows. You could see it and everything. So, I had to drop the phone and duck and cover and leave, right? And I'm on the phone with my daughter when this happened, right? She has no clue, and Shelly just assumed at the time that, we just lost connection. That's what happens, right? That's easy. But that totally rocked my entire world, so much that I no longer wanted to talk to my wife or kids while I was in Iraq.
Wow.
Because I didn't want that. I didn't want, to be talking to my wife and then for something horrible to happen to me. And in 2007, I was there during the surge of operations, which was we were taking 10 rockets a day, daily. And back in 2007, now the video chats were really popular. And my wife kept on asking me, why don't you ever want to video chat with me? And I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that because I don't want you to see a rocket hit my building while we're talking. That's horrible. I didn't even go to the pool except until the very end because I was there in the summer. It's 180,000 degrees. And I'm like, I don't want to be by the pool. And if a rocket hit and I was just sunbathing or swimming in the pool, explain that to your wife that your husband died while swimming. I just did not want that to happen. So it really, really affected the way I, 6 months without really seeing anything is hard.
And
wow.
So was it hard for her not to take that personally? Or did she understand?
I think she understood. Yeah, I think, obviously it sucked, but I would call, but the calls were really quick, just you have your list. I'm fine. It's hot. I'm losing weight. I love you. How are the kids? Okay, bye.
Yeah. So how often did you get to see her while you were deployed, did you have like a leave
I
where
didn't
you
do any
could
video
come home?
chats.
That was it.
Oh, no, because there's no. You're usually when you do an R&R, you would just go down to Qatar or Doha.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I didn't go back.
Yeah.
A lot.
Got to rely on your communication and rely on the foundation that you already have.
I'll email you. I will text you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Did you ever go anywhere that you felt like the family could come and see you? Or was it just hard because you have 3 kids, special needs? Like, was that just nearly impossible?
I think it was because we've had, by the time I started doing things that the family could go through, they were in school, so that was difficult to get them out of school. And then obviously we had Oliver, and Oliver was diagnosed very early on. In fact, I was doing a radio show, morning radio in Germany, and he was all of just shy of 3. And in the military, they have what's called EDIS, which is Early Developmental Intervention Services, and basically they do what's called a child find screen to see if anyone has developmental disabilities, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm interviewing these ladies, and after like the second question, I'm like, holy shit, we're talking about my son right now. So I like threw away all my questions and just started asking like super personal questions. And so as soon as we went to the first break, I'm like, how soon can you come to my house? Because I think my son could really benefit from you guys. And so he was diagnosed very early on. So he's been receiving services for almost 20 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
So this has been our life for 20 years.
So are you from Germany originally? Like, were you born and raised there?
Generation. Oliver was born in Germany.
Okay.
My grandparents were born in Germany. My dad was not. My dad does not speak. My uncle does not speak. And my aunt does not speak. I've taken a couple of years of German, but still, that's a hard language.
Yeah. Do you feel like you receive better services for your son in Germany than you do in the States?
No, because they didn't have enough services.
Gotcha.
And also, this was 20 years ago, and autism, it was still like, I would say, emerging. They really didn't know what to do. And then, we came back to the States. And I think in the States, we actually were forced back to the States because of Oliver. And we got as many services as possible, but it was still very difficult. I mean, even today, it's very difficult because he won't leave the house. So for medical services, we have to pay out of pocket to get people to come to see him. It's really designed, the in-home healthcare model is really designed for the aging community and not for the developmental disabled community because he can walk, he does these things, but he's not going to the hospital. Like, that's not happening. No. I mean, when he was a kid, it was very difficult. Like, we'd have to, like, he doesn't like the hospital rooms. So, like, we would actually be seen in the lobby because that's where he felt comfortable.
Are there services that are available that are more in like a home looking kind of setting? Do they have any of those?
Wouldn't know because we're not interested.
Oh.
Yeah. That is a non-starter in this household.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Until it becomes a point where either A, he's no longer happy, right? Or B, the small list of things I don't even want to talk about where we would no longer be able to satisfy his life.
Yeah. Does he partake in yoga or stretching or that movement or? I
would say yes, but not with us.
Okay.
So I have several pictures. He had a therapist when we lived in Maryland who taught him all the different breathing techniques. I, of course, taught the therapist taught Oliver, and some stretches. No, but his big thing right now is, and I'm so excited about it, is after being homebound for 7 years, we've been playing Pokemon Go since May. And it started out with us just in our little neighborhood for like 15 minutes and coming back. And then I added the next neighborhood and the next neighborhood. And then we got it up to 2.5 hour loop around the entire area of Nocatee. And now we drive on the weekends 40 minutes somewhere and walk around for 10 miles playing this game.
Wow.
And yeah, shocking. So I used to be my son's best friend. There was an event in 4th grade where he was bullied and it was really traumatic, PTSD, the whole 9 yards. I did something that I don't want to discuss on this podcast, but basically I then became persona non grata. So since he was 9 years old up until recently, he just wouldn't speak to me anymore. And so now he and I are going out playing these games. He and I talk. He's very economical with his words. So basically the way I describe it is, if he doesn't think there's a benefit for him to speak, he won't speak. He'll just look at you maybe. He might grunt. He might do one of those things, and that's about it. But the cool thing is, just 2 days ago, we were out playing, and this couple, the mom and son, came and helped join us doing this event. And the protocol is usually you ask to be friends with them, blah, blah, blah. And then you may or may not ask if you want to do any trades. And so Oliver says, hey, do either of you, this is not what he sounds like, it's not this clean, but I don't want to be embarrassing, but basically he said, do either of you have a Charizard with this particular move set? And I'm thinking to myself, this is so amazing that here's my son talking to complete strangers, right? And asking for something that he wants.
Oh.
He finishes the sentence by saying, because my dad needs one. And then I'm like choked up, like trying not to cry. And like, what a selfless thing to do. And then of course I started getting freaked out. Like, how did he know that I didn't have one of those?
What did I do?
How did I know? Like, how does he have one? Because we play the same way. So like, how does he get one that I anyway? That's all in a nutshell.
Sounds like you guys turned a corner.
I mean, it's total baby steps, but also giant leaps at the same time.
Yeah.
He sounds fun. Sounds like you guys have a good time. Don't play it while you're driving. But
No, we're in a golf cart.
That's cool.
We live in a golf cart community.
I remember when it first came out and you were like, seeing out like kids walking out in traffic, kids walking off bridges. I'm like, what is wrong with
I know we probably want to shift gears to talk about non-Pokemon stuff, but I will tell you that I'm at the point now where this is a weird thing. You have as many friends as you want, but you can only give 20 gifts a day. And so I'm at the point now where I have to go out to get gifts for people. You can't buy them. You have to go to these places to get them, right? And so today, Tuesdays, is our grocery day. And so like now, before we go grocery shopping, I spend. We go into the store, we come back out, I spend again. That's my life.
I remember being in that life with my kids, and we'd go downtown to downtown Denver. And it's not, I don't know, whatever, it's downtown, and we'd go walking around, and I think he had to have some kind of sign or something that maybe it was the gift thing, like I need gifts or something, or give me your gifts. Right. Or now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why we had the sign, but you get into it as a parent. You're like, you're in it, I'm in it, and Desiree and I were talking about this the other day, like, when your kids are having a hard time with something, your world just sinks. And when they're doing well, you're on top of the world again. And you're just kind of following them and their emotions and your heart.
Right.
And then calling your friends who are therapists at, 11 o'clock at night to help you through it.
Sounds like a pretty good gig to have.
Oh, God. Being a parent is the most rewarding job, internally rewarding. I don't think anyone else really appreciates you. But it's it's one of the hardest, but one of the best jobs I've ever had.
The hardest is being a spouse.
The hardest job is being a spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that the easiest.
Because you're a woman, that's why. You don't have the male gene that makes it so difficult. Like,
yeah, it's probably a lot more work for my husband. He makes it look pretty effortless.
We should ask Jesse and Jim. Is it hard for you to be a spouse? They'd be like, no, this is the best. We love it.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest thing for me is like, why do you guys not know what you want to eat at the end of the day? Like, I'll cook it. Just tell me what it is you want. That's not the hardest
that
thing.
is a tough one. I was talking with one of my neighbors because we don't really meal prep, but I plan everything out for the week and I shop once a week, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, how do you do it? I'm like, well, first of all, I don't have 3 kids in the house, right? It's just, I mean, Oliver has his own 3 things that he eats, which makes it very easy. And then my wife and I cook and I clean. So I get to make it up. But she has asked every once in a while, she's like, hey, if we get tacos every week, shouldn't we get my favorite meal every week? I'm like, yes, okay. Spaghetti's her. She loves spaghetti. She's a spaghetti girl. So
See, he gets bored. So he wants different things every week.
well, it's easy.
And
Because
then
there's 5,000 different types of tacos you can make. And then, when it comes to spaghetti, you can have a meatball, you can have bolognese, you can have just a quick, there's thousands of different ways to make pasta.
I make between 1 and 4 different meals a night, depending on.
No.
I have very picky eaters.
Yeah, that's hard. My daughter went vegan a couple times, and this was back in the early 2000s or early 20s, 10s, zeros, whatever, like 2007-ish. That sounds better. And it was difficult because, first of all, she doesn't like vegetables, right? And I refuse to make all these different dishes. So I'm like, if my daughter's doing it, I'm doing it, because that at least makes 2 people eating 1 meal, the same type of food, right? But all she wanted was the tofu thing. At the time, it was really only tofu was the thing. So it was I can understand the difficulty there.
Yeah, my in-laws are vegetarian.
I'm
partially vegan. So then holidays, I'm like, all right, lasagna, no meat, no egg in the cheese. Like,
pass. Yeah, too much. It's too much.
No. But
look, we're slightly off the rails. Bring us
we
back.
are.
I'll bring us back.
Right. This is life, though. It's messy.
It is messy.
There's a lot of different things.
Well, I mean, we're talking about growing up and what you bring forward into your own family, into your own parenting, into your own marriage. We're talking about the importance of communication in a marriage, whether you're in 2 different countries or whether you're in the same house. And, I think that's almost the work in relationships. I think work shouldn't be, are you going to cheat? The work is making sure that you're having fun in a relationship, making sure that you're communicating, making sure that you're hearing and listening to your partner and offering the validation, and just working on that connection as life changes. As you've got 3 kids and they're growing, so every stage that they go into, every dynamic that changes when they leave the house, it's like, okay, now my relationship with my spouse is changing because the dynamics just shifted.
Big time. So my oldest stayed with us until he was 25, and we only kicked him out. I say we kicked him out. The only reason why we told him it's time to leave is because he had a girlfriend at the time, who, nice enough young lady, but she was kind of a loud, sloppy drunk. And so it was disruptive to Oliver. Like, her choices, none of my business, but because it was in my house and it was affecting my child, I'm like, this is not working, right? And so he left at 25. Then my daughter, she went to college. So she did the traditional leaving, right? Went to college, and then did not like Florida, so she left immediately after graduating college and moved back to DC. Quote, she doesn't want to live on the sun and she likes the seasons.
Yeah.
I miss the seasons most when we moved to Florida.
No,
I
don't miss it at all.
You don't miss it.
Now, I don't want to be in Washington where you're getting dumped for 6 to 8 months in snow, but I would like Virginia. Like, they get a couple months, a little bit of snow, and then they're nice other than that. Because where I am, we only get snow once every 2 years. Everything shuts down for a week, but you only get like an inch. But we don't have salt or sand or plows or anything, so they shut everything down.
Well, the only reason why we live in Florida is because I have neuropathy now too. Another partying gift of vacationing in Baghdad.
Vacation in Baghdad.
We were planning on moving. We were planning on moving either to somewhere in Colorado or Camas, Washington, so across the river from Portland, Oregon. But when I started getting the neuropathy issues, I'm like, we got to move somewhere warm. That's full stop. And there was no way for us to go back to California because I also didn't want to. I knew that I couldn't have a real job between the issues that I'm dealing with and also also being the father and husband that my wife and my son deserve. I knew that I didn't want to have any type of jobs that would bring me out of the house. I wanted to be here. And so that's how we ended up in Florida. And the first winter we were here, we had like 12 straight days below freezing. And I was so pissed off. I'm like, did we not move far enough south? Like, this is horrible. So I'm the guy here in Florida that has the gloves on, that has the hoodie on, the beanie hat, the big puffer jacket, and it's like 50, right? I'm like, it's miserable. I'm going to sue the state.
Now, is the neuropathy in your hands and your feet?
It started in my left big toe. That's where, at least that's where I should say, that's where I'm like, what is this? And we did all the different tests, the nerve biopsies. So it was just in the left leg. It's now in my entire body. The good news is that it's still very slow moving. The doctors say that neuropathy is a very slow moving disability, which is great because whenever I see the neurologist, I'm like the only person not in a walker or in a wheelchair, right? So I'm like, I'm probably going to be close because I also have vertigo and I probably fall about a dozen times a year. So like when the neuropathy and vertigo hit at the same time, I just fall to the ground. So it used to be right there, but my wife came in here and hid my cane. So now my cane's in my closet. So every once in a while I walk around with a little cane just so I don't fall back. Wait, where is it? Oh, where is it? Oh, it's way up here. You can't really see it, but I fell yesterday and had a little yummy. I'm not even drinking, which is even like I tell my neighbors, like if you see me and it looks like I'm day drinking, more than likely I'm sober. I just
what kind of treatment do they have you doing with the neuropathy?
None.
Okay.
There's none because they're calling it idiopathic, meaning they can't really figure out where it comes from. They think it's stemming from my lower back issues. Most people have L1, 2, and 3 like this. I have L1, 2, and 3 that look like this. That's why I'm on the heating pad because it just slips. No matter how much yoga I do, it still just slips just enough and throws me off. So I think that there's some type of compression going on there, which is, but there's also, because there's that type of neuropathy, but they've done the biopsies. The sheath is trying to eat all the electricity in my body.
Because I've seen those like almost like a TENS unit, but you can you got those. Yeah.
I got it.
That's it. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Hey,
do you feel like it helps?
I don't know. It feels really good. I can tell you that, like, it feels really good. I can't tell you that if I do that and it goes away, but it just kind of feels good. It's kind of like doing a yoga nidra. I don't know if you know what that does, Ray. I don't know if your yoga background is, but you do a yoga nidra, what they call it yoga sleep, and although you're not sleeping, you feel really refreshed. So I don't know if this is doing anything other than I feel refreshed. But I also have up here is another thing that I connect to my ears, another type of TENS unit. It's an alpha stimulator. I have I actually have a TENS unit for my back. I got all the things. I do yoga. I got the things.
Yeah. Well, and it's
so between cooking and shopping and helping, you still have all this self-care that you have to do for yourself.
I do. Yeah. But interesting. I know, Tammy, you have a question, but also making mala is part of that self-care. So that was kind of the reason it stuck, I think, is because it gave me something to do with my
Mm-hmm.
hands, and you have to be completely
It's like a
focused on
meditation.
this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because there's 110 knots on
Mm-hmm.
this, right? And so if I get all the way to here and I mess up, you have to start over. You got to cut all the knots, throw all the
Yours
knots
look really
away,
good.
and you start over.
Those
Yeah,
are,
so
you've been doing that for a long time.
I mean, they used to take me like days to make. Now I can do it like in 15
Mine are
minutes.
like very
15, 20
loose,
minutes.
and they're, you can, so I have to redo it and tie it a little tighter, and I'm practicing.
You gotta have the things. You gotta have the tool. I have the tools back here.
And what's cool is you're giving back so much. I think that with OCD, anxiety, just post-traumatic stress, whatever, I think it's hard to feel anxious when you're giving back at the same time. And so the ideas that you have with all your volunteer work and even creating logos and having that creativity, knowing that you're doing this for people, and supporting people who are in need, I think it's you're giving back so much, and there's so much ability to have gratitude in that
it's a delicate balance, Tammy, because I'm sure you are aware of the avoidance techniques that are available.
I love avoidance.
So
it's so much nicer.
I definitely have at least 3 black belts in avoidance, right? So the delicate balance is like, it's so much easier for me to give. It's almost impossible for me to take. But I do know that if given the choice to either give or to help myself, I'm going to want to give, because there's less thoughts involved in that, right? So there is a delicate balance between making sure that I'm giving because my heart wants to give versus giving because I refuse to face the facts.
And you're right, there is that balance, and you've got to be aware of that. And I think, I was just talking to a client today where I said, set your timer 3 times a day, and when it does a ding, you have to check in with yourself. You don't have to do anything about it. You just check in. How am I doing? Where's my anxiety? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to just that awareness? Because you're right, you can get so far down that path of avoidance that it's going to come and get you. It's not going anywhere. It's just festering, waiting for the opportunity. So but life is about balance. So, yeah.
So it's funny you say set the reminders. I think this is the time to let you know that my Fitbit goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning every morning. I get up, I meditate, I have coffee, and I come to the office, blah, blah, blah. At 10:25 in the morning every day, my watch bings me again. We do yoga. My wife and I do yoga. Then we have lunch, come back into my office. At 2:30, my watch bings me again. Excuse me, first of all, 12 o'clock, my watch bings me. I've been doing something called subconscious restructuring since about 2011. And so there's a series of sentences. Some are sentences and some are questions that are supposed to be letting my subconscious work the magic. So then at 2:30, this is my newest alarm. At 2:30 now, Monday through Friday, my wife and I read books for 30 minutes. She reads all day. ADHD people generally don't like to read, and if they do read, it's usually just self-help books. So I read fiction for 30 minutes a day. And then the last timer tells me it's time to go to bed at 8:30.
So yeah, you can run your life on these timers, and they're just reminders of like self-care.
Reminder. And if they don't go off, I don't do it, just so you know.
Yeah.
My daughter does that. She's 15. She has ADD. Her, my son, and my husband, I have a touch of it, but not like the 3 of them. And their whole life is ran on timers. I mean, my son has Alexa next to him so they do virtual school at home. He has Alexa on his desk.
Yeah.
And she
goes,
too,
actually.
She goes, okay, Jesse, it's time for class. Your 1:15 class. It's time for your 8:30 class. It's time and all day, 7:30, it's time to brush your teeth. Okay, now it's time to take a shower. Okay, now it's time to get ready for take your vitamin. Like his whole day is on that Alexa.
I do have a downside to this, because although I know that I flourish and I'm more productive, possibly even happier when I'm scheduled, I also get bored as I'm scheduled, because it's all the same. And then like when Tammy sent the email, like, are you interested in doing this? I'm like, oh, when would I be able to do that? Like, I have plenty of time, but like, because it's not something I routinely do, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Oh, how can I do that? So, when things outside of my routine pop up, it does cause some issue to me, even though I have nothing preventing me from doing things. I think that's that new introvert role I'm playing. I'm like, you want me to leave my house and it's not Tuesday?
It's outside of the norm. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Chris, you are involved in so many things. We would love it if you could send us some links to some places where people could go and check out what you're doing. Your radio show, this is actively going on?
No, so that was my job. That was my as a combat correspondent. We also, when we were not out in the field, radio and television was the jam.
Okay.
So I could easily still be doing it. I was offered several jobs upon retirement, but I had to reject all of them because it's just not in the great. Every once in a while, like I'll listen to the local radio station. I'm like, I could do such a better job than this. Like, just let me do it. There is an organization out there that does they have whatever license they have to all the music, but they have all these different military people who aren't necessarily, I don't think any of them were actually broadcast journalists in the military. They just love music and love talking about vet things. So they actually offered me an opportunity with them too. But the problem is that there's no real place that I can be where that's quiet enough to do that. So because my son's on the opposite schedule, and that just doesn't make any sense. So maybe one day, who knows? I miss it. I probably miss that more than anything because I love music. I think music is so therapeutic. When I go on my road trips, I always have the music blaring. Poor Lucky, like, I sure hope he likes the way I sing. I know I'm not a great singer,
he looks
but like,
pretty happy
I like
in your
to
pictures.
process.
Yeah.
He seems pretty well. I think that's because I give him French fries when we're traveling, so I think that's his jam. But for me, another technique for my trauma processing is just to play music and to sing and to actually listen to the words. Like, I have found that there's tons of songs that I've heard 1,000 times that I've never really listened to the words. And as soon as you allow yourself the opportunity to slow down like that, then like things get really deep and heavy and the tears just pop out.
Perfect example of that. Emotion is still there. It just needs the right opportunity and time to come out, but you got to pay attention to it. So, yeah. Well, it's awesome.
God bless Dr. Adele.
Exactly. It's been so nice to meet you, actually, finally here, and thank you so much for coming on here and for your time.
Are we ending it? I see that we're getting close to an hour. I'm assuming you're wanting to stop at an hour. I can go longer. We could talk to
you all day.
Right. But no one probably wants to listen to this all day.
I'm entertained. I don't know. I hope our listeners are. I'm sure they are. We've gotten to talk about a lot of different aspects, and you are always welcome to come back on here at any time to delve in deeper to any of the little, bits and pieces that we touched on. So you're always welcome to come back.
Great. Or your wife. She seems like a superhero.
She's a super, but she is an extrovert. Good luck. Good luck getting her on record for anything.
That would...
Right? I mean, I have friends who are like, are you sure you're married? When was the last time I saw your wife? I'm like, she's at home doing the thing that she does. I mean, she doesn't want to be, if there's one thing she's not, it's a hypocrite, and she doesn't want to give anybody opportunity to even consider that she might be a hypocrite.
Well, she sounds awesome. That would be a fun show to have both you guys on here talk about your marriage, how you guys make it through with all the things.
Oh, all you would see is rolling eyes.
That's awesome. Oh,
Well, we also have 2 links from you that we're going to also link below for people to find you for your design, and then also another website for the Mala for Vets that we will link
good.
below too, so people can click on those and follow those.
Well, the Model for Vets link is that's all you really, well, obviously the design too, but on the Model for Vets page, that's where you'll see all the resources. So I have all the different organizations I support, all the different yoga studios across the country that also are supporting us. And there's yoga videos, there's meditation practices, there's breathing practices. They're all wait, those ones aren't on my page anymore. Shoot. I forgot. I took them down, but I'm in the process of getting it back up. But you'll have links to Connected Warriors, to Vetoga, to Warriors at Ease, to Save a Warrior, Mission 22. They're all on there.
Well, thank you so much for your service, for everything that you continue to do, for supporting veterans. It's we appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun. I mean, this is out of the normal for me on a Tuesday.
Glad we got you out of your comfort zone. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we will we'll let you know when this airs. All right.
Okay.